Happy Thanksgiving, brother. Thanks for making the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good to see you again.
Great to see you, man. How are you? You got the UFC banner behind you.
Pretty excited about that. Yep, my shameless marketing over there. And, what a year 2020's been, right? Would have imagined.
You don't have to say that twice, I think, to anybody, right? Man. So I want to go back in time. Like, how did you get involved? How did you find jiu-jitsu? The famous, legendary Scotty from On the Mat. And then it was Scotty Nelson, Scotty from On the Mat. So how did you get started in jiu-jitsu? What's the story with that?
I was living in Huntington Beach, fist fighting capital of America. And I just started to hear about the Gracie family. And then about, just a little bit of time after UFC 1, my friend Rob came over with a VHS tape of the first UFC and just watched it right there. He had already been training with Hailson Gracie in Newport Beach. And, I didn't get in there training right away, but about 1995, end of 95, I was going in and training.
95.
So, yeah.
And Helson Gracie was he was down in LA at that time.
Not Helson. It's oh god, I'm having a problem saying it.
Here,
it's Rodrigo's dad.
Oh, what's his name?
Hasten.
I got you.
So you know what? Back then, we learned 3 moves a class. Drop-in classes were $60 a class, and you could only drill them. No live sparring.
No live sparring, and it was in his garage, or there was an actual place.
No, it was like a really small dojo in Newport.
And it was his gym, or it was rented out from a Taekwondo school?
His gym, little tiny spot, maybe like 50 feet by 50 feet of mats, something like that, 60, 70 feet.
Damn. What year was that?
So that was probably, I don't really count that as like starting training because I started with Half, in 95. So that was, after UFC 3-ish. And it was cool. I didn't go that much. It was so expensive. It was like an hour drive away. And so, but that's when I first saw jiu-jitsu and put on a gi.
And what brought you to the Bay Area?
Man, I got a job. Up there. The economy was booming and the internet was just starting out. And I got a job up there. I moved up there and I drove by house and I took a picture of it. And I sent it to my buddy Rob. I'm like, is this guy legit? And he goes, 100%. And I was like, the next day I signed up. I didn't have a car at the time. I used to ride the bus to train. And so I got so into jiu-jitsu, like I quit my first job and I got a job at night refinancing mortgages so I could train in the morning and the afternoon. And then I got a lunch job waiting tables, mostly so I could eat. But so I make a little money at lunch, and then train, and then I go train at night and then go work the night job.
That gym was in Mountain View?
Mountain View,
yeah. Mountain View. And so what are some of the names that were training on the mats in those days?
Gumby was there, Cameron Earl was there. Soon thereafter, I actually met Cameron on the bus going to train one day. We're like looking at each other and then we got off at the same spot. And the Camarillos were already there. Dave and Dan Camarillo were already there. This guy, Brandon Dennington, that was really awesome, was there. Troy Dennington was there. Yeah, we had a beast crew for a while.
And BJ Penn came in later?
BJ came in. Yeah, I remember I'd been training like maybe 3 months when BJ got there, and I got put up against him first, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's, tiny. You know how it is, like in your first few months, you're like, if you could just tap out anyone, it's like you won the worlds. And so I thought I had a chance, and he just murdered me and footlocked me and like over and over again. Oh my God. Damn. Jiu-jitsu.
And then how did that go into on the mat? You know, because I got to stay at your warehouse one time when I went to go compete at Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And then you've done so much for the sport, for myself, for so many of us Americans, just with helping us, you know, have footage to study. Right? How did that whole process?
Remember, no YouTube or anything, and so we had this guy, Don Geddes, who was very successful entrepreneur in the Bay, and he started BJJ.org, and that's where he had like the whole Gracie family tree, and Alan Marquez, aka Gumby, he was working for a company called, I think it was IX Micro, on video compression. So it was just, it always sucked to go to tournaments and not get footage, right? So I saved up some money, I bought a video camera, and I was mostly there just videotaping our guys and my matches and stuff, but also all the super fights. And Gumby was like, well, give me that footage. I want to try and compress it down and put it on the internet. And I was like, oh, all right, cool.
That's crazy back in those days.
And then, this was dial-up modem days. So it was like, beep, you leave your computer on all night to download like one picture. And then, so, my brother had websites and people were building their own websites. I got a job working at a company that built websites to learn about them. It was the future. And so then we just decided to do On the Mat, call it On the Mat. And since Gumby had this like video technology, and my brother owned his own servers, like I kind of had free bandwidth. So we were able to post like the first jiu-jitsu videos on the internet.
Yeah.
So, and they were tiny, 120 by 240. Right now we're at like 4K. Think about that, like how small those videos were. But, people used to download them from all over the world, all the little matches. And that's how it started. And then things got crazy and like people started to like know about it when in 1999 I went to Brazil the first time, and I wrote an article about my trip to Brazil that went viral back then.
Right. Yeah, I heard about you. I think I heard about On the Mat as soon as I came back from Brazil, because I don't think I had internet really in Brazil. But in 2000 is when I came back. And so I heard about On the Mat from one of my guys. Yeah.
So I think we're like the first, well, we are the longest. There was some other websites that were up before On the Mat, but they're gone. There was like In the Guard and stuff. And then, of course, some of the bigger sites have come along since then. I think we are the oldest, and we posted the first video live, not live, but video, full downloadable streaming video, we call it now, right?
Video, yeah. Wow.
Back in the day. And then like Brazil was going down to Brazil, and I always like to clear up, you just said it, but that you were in Brazil before me. I don't know why people think I was the first American to go train in Brazil, but it's so far from the truth. It's not even funny. I saw Bob Anderson once, and we were having a conversation about it. We worked out at the same gym and hung out and everything. Dude was there like 20 years before me.
Yeah, for some guys, right?
What
brought you down to Brazil?
Man, like jiu-jitsu, right? Half always kept saying Dave and BJ had gone down there with Half, and I'd just been saving my money up for years to go. And then I wanted to go for the millennial, I was like, well, if it's the end of the world, might as well be in Rio having fun, right?
Yeah.
So I went down there with like Mickey O'Riggs and another buddy of ours, Greg, and man, we had a blast. We stayed down there for a few months, ran into you in a mall down there. And
and you didn't just go down. You guys set up that infamous, you got a house. What was that process? You got to tell that story, because you got a house on the beach with a bunch of gringos.
Yeah. And, we well, when I first moved down there, Carlinos Gracie helped me a lot because nobody wanted to rent a place to me or anything. And he helped me get a place rented. It was like right behind the Gracie Academy. And that's where it first started. The first year we were there, we had 17 guys sleeping on the mats in my living room for the world. And my neighbors put up with it for whatever reason, And so, yeah, that, we had that going on. And then we moved out of that house because we met these other gringos that had this giant penthouse right off the beach. It had a pool on the roof and steam sauna and all this. It was 5 bedrooms. And, by then people had jiu-jitsu had gotten popular enough that guys wanted to come down and train.
Yeah.
And so I just rented out rooms really cheap enough to cover my rent and stuff. And that Casa dos Gringos got pretty famous down in Brazil pretty quickly. So, you'd have these guys that saved their whole life to come down to Brazil to train, hang out, and party, and so it got crazy for sure.
Man, in 98, the dollar was 98. Yeah, the dollar was 1 to 1. 97 as well. 98 was 1 to 1. The dollar for the 1 AU. So super expensive, right?
Yep.
And then in 99, I think is when you went down, it doubled.
No. So 99, it was still only like 1.5, 1.6,
Okay.
1.7. Then 2 years later, when I moved down there, it was still around that same amount, maybe a little higher. But yeah, that's when we moved to the giant penthouse. Was when Lula, the president, was coming in, and he was talking about defaulting on all of the World Bank loans, and so it almost went to 4 to 1. It was crazy. Every day I'd go to the bank, and like the money I had in the bank was like almost doubling, and it would only let me take out so much at a time, and I was just like trying. And then Danny Do Nothing and we went on a shopping spree when it hit like 3.5. We bought a washer, a dryer. Like nobody had a dryer in Brazil.
Right.
For, and we bought all kinds of stuff when we were down there, and it was a crazy time for Brazil too, man. Can you imagine like everything price goes up 4x? Like, we might see that in America, like.
Well, I remember when it
twice as expensive.
Yeah, I remember in 98 to 99, whenever it was like it was a shift. So I went from 1, it was almost 1 to almost 2, and so I was able to afford a car, and then I ended up like, well, I ran out of money because I saved money, but then I ran out of money, and so I started. I basically I lived on credit cards. I had like a credit card with a big limit, and I just took money out every month and committed.
What we had to do, I lived on 101 submissions.
Okay, I was going to ask you how you made money.
Well, yeah. And then I remember when I first got there, I went into Carlinhos's office at CBJJ, and
which was the garage, which was his garage in his house, right?
Garage of his house, right? Yep. And he had all the old Moon Jiao t-shirts from all the different years, and so I was like, how much, dude? I'll buy them all. And he didn't want like hardly nothing for him, like $4 a t-shirt or something. And then I just put them all online on my website for like $40. Shipped them to a fulfillment place that I had in like Iowa or Ohio, and they delivered them. And I sold those. I was selling gis. I would buy gis and ship them back. And then, but when I made 101 submissions in that first little house, I think you came by there, the one right behind Gracie Baja, like around the corner. And dude, that video sold like crazy. Like crazy. Back before you could copy DVDs.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I sold like close to like 30,000 copies of that DVDs over the years. So
it's probably like almost every single person that was doing jiu-jitsu at that time. I mean, it was growing like wildfire.
Yeah.
But probably everybody, every gym pretty much, right? In the world probably had a copy.
My friends at gyms were like, dude, I just put that video on mute in the lobby and let people watch submission, and let it sell them.
And so did you grow up like skating? Because right, it was like a skater kind of a skater, like lifestyle kind of lifestyle video.
Yeah, I totally grew up skateboarding, was a pro snowboarder for a while. And, my roommate for a while was this guy, Eric Wackball. And he did all of the video editing for the Crusty Demons of Dirt guys. So like, they were like skate, motocross, crazy, that style. So that's kind of where I got the influence. So yeah, some of those videos probably get me in trouble now.
Well, man, back in those days, right? Like you would put that thing on, and it was entertainment, right? Like you would have in the skate shops, you would have those kind of the skate videos. So that was like our video. What a different time from today. Like it's all professional. back then it was like Fight Club, and you had on the mat videos playing maybe in your gym if you had a TV, right? In your gym.
It's definitely changed so much, you know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How was it being a gringo in those days in the 1990s?
There weren't a lot of us around, especially ones that look like a human glow stick. So, you know, I got a lot of attention, good and bad, down there. Things got crazy. I mean, it's Brazil. People don't, you know, I live in Tijuana now, part time with the hospital and stuff. And people always ask me, "Are you scared to live in Tijuana?" I'm like, no way. Nothing like Rio, like not even close, you know. Rio was as scary as Pakistan. So,
yeah,
it's not bad down there at all. You were just there. It's pretty nice.
yeah. Man, your Pakistan. We'll get to that a little bit later. That Pakistan story of yours is like, me and Jeff. We did a podcast last week, and we were talking about it. You know, like, yeah, look up Scotty Nelson, Pakistan kimono story.
Yeah, that was the scariest day of my life. People don't believe that story, but that's fine. You know.
So you know you started shipping gis and you started shipping t-shirts, and I mean really whatever, because I mean those things were worth so much you know at the time, because nobody could get those things, right?
Yeah.
So what was the process? How long did you stay in Brazil total?
I was there 3 years, but you know, back and forth for probably
Right.
6 or 7.
And then when you moved back from Brazil, like what was the process of you know, because you had on the mat fight shops. Was that right away, or what was the process?
You know, the UFC started blowing up, and you know, things kind of got a little bit hot in Brazil. You know how hot-headed people are down there. So, you know, for a while there was like I could get blamed for anything that was on the internet. People didn't really understand that, like, what a forum was. So you have a forum, and you know, you start a post, and then they think everything that's written below you wrote it. So you know, there was a lot of confusion, and people were getting angry. You know, kind of like now, people are angry about the internet. You know, but like back then, people didn't really understand in Brazil the internet as much, and so and there was a lot of people using like this, you know, what was it called, like Alta Vista Translate or something like that, Babelfish Translate. And so, you know, translating slang English and jiu-jitsu talk through a, you know, especially back then, Portuguese translator, things didn't really translate necessarily the way they were, you know, meant to. One time I wrote Gracie Camp is badass, and that translated to pure bunda or some shit like that, and like shit ass, or and I got in trouble for that.
That was the one, right? The Gracie camp that they were doing the camp.
The first one that really got people angry, that I didn't really understand why they were angry, because I thought I wrote a really nice article about it, but people were really pissed off about it. You know, I had brought up that for jiu-jitsu to grow, you know, I said we have to drop the B in Brazilian jiu-jitsu for it to become a worldwide sport, especially if we want to go into the Olympics. There's no other Olympic sport named after a country. Like, how's that going to work? You have the German Brazilian jiu-jitsu team. Now you should have the German jiu-jitsu team, and almost got scalped for that one. You know, that was a big disrespect to the art, I guess.
That was back
at that time. You know, it was just different back then. You know,
yeah.
Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I've actually had people from that era run into them at a tournament, and they're like, actually apologized to me, which was like, you know, like I didn't understand what you meant back then, but I get it now. And so that was cool. But back then it got a little scary.
You know, I talked to some of the old school guys, like, you know, like Megaton and different guys, and some people, they don't want it to be an Olympic sport, you know, because do you want it to be an Olympic sport?
I don't think so, man. I was really into snowboarding, and I saw how snowboarding was destroyed by the Olympics and bastardized. And I don't think so. You know, now you've got these committees, most of whom have never trained the sport or anything, deciding the direction of the sport, and it trickles down, you know, to it. So I don't really think it needs to be in the Olympics, you know, like, does that make it a real sport or something? But imagine you have like this, you know, I'll tell you the thing that happened in snowboarding was all of a sudden how many times you could spin around in a circle became the deciding factor of whether or not you won. So it took all like the creativity and the style out of it because everyone's just trying to do the same one thing. So, this is probably extreme, but imagine like all of a sudden one submission becomes like, well, if you finish with this one submission, then you're the best fucking jujitsu guy ever. You win the gold medal. And then jujitsu just becomes all about looking for that one submission or, something along those lines.
Yeah.
That would be my fear of it. Like even look at judo.
Yeah. Yeah. They keep changing things, taking away things, right? And
becomes a rules game.
Yeah. And like when I look at the federation, like the judo federation, right? The Niwaza, they have their own ground federation now, trying to compete. But like the IBJF, the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, it's been just blowing up, right? Like around the world.
Yep.
Leaps and bounds. So they're doing something right, and we don't need it to go to the Olympics. It stands on its own, I think, just because.
Well, more important, IBJJF, whatever, but. You got Mo out there doing his thing with the professional level. You got Seth Daniels. You got other other people. It's Eddie Bravo's crushing.
Right.
Yeah. I was talking to him not too long ago, and like, EBI is like the second most watched thing on Fight Pass. Like, how much exposure is that?
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
It's cool what the IBJJF is doing, but I think that making it a professional sport and supporting the athletes is way more important rather than just like, let me cash haul over here. And
I just think of we were talking about the Olympics, I just think of it like the amount of people in the audience and just how it, just that kind of theme, of sportive, not sportive, but like you're in an arena with, like it's kind of similar to the Olympics in a way, in that aspect. That's what I was comparing it to. And I'm so grateful for just all the opportunities that they have now. These super fights and things like that. Like I wish that we would have had these things back in the day, because it could have, I ended up starting to fight MMA. But if we would have had a lot of these professional events, right, it could have kind of give you a reason to keep doing jiu-jitsu. Not that I wouldn't have maybe not fought MMA, but I think jiu-jitsu, it just gives you more opportunity, right, to stick with it and to make them friends.
Yep.
Yeah. Like what are some events that you remember that like blew your mind that you guys recorded back in Brazil, or I guess your favorite ones?
I mean, one of the sickest events was Campos de Jiu-Jitsu. You ever go out to you went out to Campos, right? Didn't you?
Yeah. And
fighting the gi there once. Anyways, going out there the first time with Paquita was sick to see all the high level people that are famous in all over the world, but we're from Brazil at the time, compete. But then the second one I went to was no gi, and Marcelo Garcia was there fresh off of his Abu Dhabi win, and he just wrecked shop on everybody there. It was like a freaking clinic. So, and I tried to fight in that tournament too, but I was hungover. I had no business being out there.
Oh my god!
Also, learning how to fight with mats that have sand all over them, like
right.
The locals get a massive advantage to that one because you're like, oh, he's just sliding me off the mat, like I have no grip here. No.
Oh my god! When I think about, like, you're like a mat rat, like people are like, yeah, you're there videoing, and then you put the video down, or hey, watch my video, and then you go compete.
I'll go compete, yeah.
That was like the lifestyle.
Yep, that's good.
And like wrestling, like you were totally immersed into just everything about it, right? Jiu-jitsu, training with like the Daryl Golar, that was training all the MMA guys at the time.
I remember one day I was at Golar's, I looked around the room and I'm like, I'm the only one here that hasn't fought in Pride, UFC, or is a Moonjiao champion, like and get my ass beat. That's where I broke my back, dude. I got slammed by Baruki on my side, and I broke 2 ribs, and I actually fractured my back, but I didn't speak much Portuguese then, and I went, you know, how Brazilian hospitals, you know, like
Yeah.
wait for socialized medicine. I'm just pointing at my ribs, like hurt, door, you know. I never had my spine checked, so
You didn't know it was broken all these years for a lot of years after.
practice that day. Of course, not goal. I was screaming at me, not to be a pussy. I'm like, my ribs hurt, bro. He's like, shut up.
And so you weren't worried or scared of, you know, I don't know, like some, like, you know, getting seriously hurt, or I mean, you were in the middle of all these like crazy gnarly dudes in jiu-jitsu, gi, no gi, and then, you know, MMA kind of pretty much as well.
And I was 10 years older than all of them.
Right. You're a little bit older than
Like
us.
masters back then. I mean, dude, I don't know. Like, I'd already gotten hurt pretty bad when I was a snowboarder. I felt like jujitsu was actually safer. I didn't really, you know, I wasn't hucking myself off cliffs and, you know, knocking myself out from crashes. But I didn't really know about the long-term wear and tear that we're both experiencing, you know. I mean, you see this Elio Gracie guy and these Hoyler guys and stuff, and you're like, man, how are they still alive? How are they still doing this? But yeah, my body feels it. But it's okay because January 15th, we are opening our own stem cell lab down in Mexico. So I've been filling myself full of stem cells, and hey, they work, you know, like it helps for sure.
Yeah. I just saw Felicia O this morning. And so she had the stem cell treatment where they drill into the hip, you know?
Yeah.
I talked to you when I went down there a couple weeks ago. Yeah, like it's like Peter, right? It's the
Robin
Robin Peter the Paul. So it's like, yeah, it's pay it. It's not the same as getting.
People have been successful with it, but it's just, you know, America's behind the times, man. That's all it is. America's behind the times on cellular therapies, and you can just cross the border, and the results are
I was surprised.
Cheaper and you know, this stuff you can't even legally get in America.
Yeah, I was telling her like, because she was like, "Oh, I'm worried to go across, you know, across the border." I'm like, it was so easy. Like exactly, like I thought it was. Without me before going there, I thought it was like way harder than it was. I was like, "What? You could just drive over?" I left the hospital and I got home in LA 2.5 hours later.
Perfect.
Driving through the border. You guys gave me the medical pass. Wow, I was mind blown.
It's not, you know, and all the time people are like, aren't you scared about the border closing? It's like, hey, fake news. The border did not close for 1 second. You know what I mean? All this, the borders closure, all this stuff. So,
yeah, crazy.
It's going to be exciting, you know, because, you know, one of the things I always loved about jiu-jitsu was, one, you bring people into jiu-jitsu, it totally changes their lives. You know what I mean? And that's a lot like why I love the hospital, right? But it's on an even deeper level. You know, we get to pull people out of the grave. Help them. And now with all this new technology, since, you know, COVID has put a lot of medical research and everything, trials and stuff at a complete halt in the US. There's rumors they're going to ban stem cells. Only certain ones will be available in America. And so that's brought a lot of the high level medicine like right over the border, and a lot of it, you know, like the level of people that are coming to work with us that want to work with us, dude, it's like, you know, it's crazy. It's like, you know, oh, Carlson Gracie wants to be your MMA jiu-jitsu coach, and, you know, Rafael Lozano's over here is going to be your striking coach, and you got you know, you got Shootbox and the Gracies are going to work together to help you win a fight, and it's so it's been really cool, you know.
That's crazy. And going back in time again, going back to the fight shop. So how did that start? I remember you were involved with the not extreme. What was it? What was the thing on CBS? The MMA event. What was it?
Elite XC.
Elite XC.
Yeah.
You're involved with that for like somehow, and then the fight shops, because I was a little bit out of the loop. But how did that whole the OTM fight shops happen?
And so, you know, I came back from Brazil when the UFC was blowing up. I was working with Ed Soares on the Passing the Guard TV show. And, you know, it was looking like he was going to maybe get this thing put on a network, which I thought was really cool. I always loved, you know, Jorginho's Passing the Guard TV show. I used to record them all in Brazil, put them on VHS tape and send them home to the guys, you know, to watch them. And, so basically that, you know, I was helping out with that, doing that. and I was living on Henry Aiken's couch and training jujitsu all over. And I was basically filling my trunk full of product, and I would go to the different schools and just sell gis and belts and videos out of my car. And there became an empty store right next to Mark Lehman's Cobra Kai out in Vegas. And Scott Beery was a buddy of mine. And so that was the first place that we looked at opening. The store was owned by one of Lehman's students, and he, pretty much gave it to us. And then from there, just started working with other people, opening other shops. At one point, we had 13 shops. And we thought we were going to make it through the last reception because the UFC was carrying us with the popularity of the sport. But even
recession, right? The recession in 2008.
Yeah. So 2006, it was still growing strong for us. 2008, it just dropped off. We closed down to the 5 major stores, and then eventually everything. Just retail was getting killed by the internet, and it was just a tough business to be in.
Yeah. And what was your what Elite XC, right? What was that?
Yeah. So Elite XC, I got hit up by BJ's brother JD, and they had wanted to open up a grappling division, and they said they would buy all of my content that I'd filmed all over the years of filming it. And so I started, I got a job working for them. They paid me really, really good, but it didn't take long to realize that that place was somebody's, the money was coming in and out of that place, and they were buying stupidest stuff. I mean, dude, they were paying celebrities more than fighters to sit in the audience to be on TV. And I'm like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? That didn't last too long, but it gave me some money to, move forward with my business endeavors. Met some really cool, great people that worked over there. A bunch of them work at the UFC now. So
nice. Yeah. And that you were able to keep the content when they went down? Is that what happened?
All my content, and they kept asking for the content, but they didn't have any way to store it, go through it, or anything. So I just stalled on bringing it into them because I didn't want it to disappear. So, and then they just folded. I think they were just somebody trying to I don't know, whatever you do in the stock market, right? You get an old company that went out of business that has stocks on the stock market. You put a new business into it, and then you do all these press releases and TV thing to make it look like it's going to blow up, and then you dump your stock and see if it works.
Because I remember King of the Cage, they bought King of the Cage, and then they gave him, Terry Treblecock, a bunch of money, and then basically they went down, and then he got everything. He never gave it up, he got everything back, but just basically got a bunch of money.
Yeah, that's kind of how.
Yeah. And then you start while you had the on the mat fight shops, you started the Lucky Gi, right?
I started Lucky Gi before then when I was living in Brazil. Here's what happened. Interesting story is that, Ed Clay owned Gameness and Nashville MMA, and he was manufacturing gis in
Brazil.
And the guys that were manufacturing him started undercutting him and going to his clients and selling his gis, illegally to them. Right. Got into a big trademark battle. Right. And I've been, working mostly with KF, Chris from KF. I don't know if you remember her.
Yeah.
She was awesome. She helped me learn a lot about gis, and I would go to the Krugen's factory out there in Icreo,
Yeah.
And I would just sit there and watch people make gis, and everybody just assumed I was just a gringo that didn't speak Portuguese. And I had a camera phone. They didn't have camera phones in Brazil. So I was just watching gis, taking pictures, taking notes, and I was trying to find someone in Brazil to make the gi I wanted with all of the changes and the stuff that I wanted. But then after I saw Ed getting ripped off so easily there, I was like, I got scared. I pulled back, And so then that's when I came back and I went to Pakistan.
What's the process like going to Pakistan as a blonde-haired American?
Well, first of all, you have to sign this letter to get the visa saying that you're going to the Middle East. Well, I grew up in the Middle East, so for one thing, but that you're going to the Middle East, to this country, and if if you get kidnapped or whatever, they may or may not, you just have to sign that that you might get kidnapped or you're fucked or whatever, right? And And so, yeah, you know, it was an experience just getting the visa and everything. Then going over there was an insane trip of like 4 plane flights just to get there. And when I was finally going into Pakistan, landing, the lady came to me and was like, "Do you want another drink?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then she goes, "Oh, if you have any drugs on you, do you have any drugs on you? You need to throw them away." And I'm like, "I don't have any drugs on me, so you know, no worries." And then so I got like my one last drink and got off the plane, dude. And so you know how they always have like the locals line and
Right.
then the gringo line. Well, dude, there's nobody in the gringo line, like nobody. This big giant line of locals, and I like walked by like 200 people, like up, like am I going to the right place, you know? And I got there, and then I got past and got my bags, dude. And then the first thing I noticed is like, oh, everybody at the airport has a gun. You know, I was just like, whoa, you know. And I found my people, and man, yeah, that was an experience. That trip was really crazy.
So everybody walking around in the airport had a gun, or it was like the security had
Right outside, you know, like you know, so you had like the airport and the security had guns, but then there's like a little road and then like another road out to where the parking lot where the taxis and everything was there. And like, you know, you just don't see guns out in the open like that in the U.S. I mean, kind of when I was a kid living in Texas for a little while, you'd see like every truck had 2 guns in the back of it, you know, might have been the same in New Mexico. And but no, just like people walking around in plain sight armed was a different feeling for sure.
And so you had talked to the guys to go out there and visit some factories, some kimono
Yeah,
factories.
I had
Actually, no, I shouldn't say kimono factories because they weren't making jiu-jitsu. They were making some uniforms.
making jujitsu gis for Ed. Ed had found them via email. They had
Uh,
made judo gis before, and he had sent some of his Brazilian-made gameless gis there, but they just couldn't quite get it right. So originally, the 2 of us were going to go over there together, but his girlfriend stole his passport, and he ended up not being a go. So I went solo, and no, so I went there and I was teaching them. But while I was on the airplane, I met this guy who lived in America, but his family had factories over there, and they made like boxing gloves and soccer balls and stuff. So I went to meet him too because I was like, well, I don't know if these people haven't been able to figure it out yet. So I actually worked with 3 factories over there. So that was a mistake. I should have just picked one, worked with one, because now all those dear kind sir emails and DMs that everyone get are pretty much my fault. So, but I taught the 3 factories. I picked one. I ended up working with the one, and then people left from that factory and started more jujitsu factories. So there was a little bit going on there before, but I definitely went over there and like showed them like, hey, this is how they do the patterns in Brazil. Here's how, you know, we want to change the crotch in the pants. We want to do 1-piece jackets. You know, in Brazil, they did 1-piece jackets and everything was 3 pieces out of Pakistan. Foam collars. Nobody was doing foam collars. I helped them source the heat resistant UV foam. So remember the Brazilian gis, you put them in the dryer in America and the ends of the collar, the lapels would like start going, you know,
yeah.
like rolling up on you. And yeah, I spent also a lot. So in where we lived in Mountain View was right by the bay, and there was a lot of sailing shops. And I went in a sailing shop one day, and I met this guy who designed racing sails. And I said, "Look, these are all the places that rip on this gi. How do I stop the ripping?" You know. And so he showed me how to put the patch, you know, stuff in to keep the jackets from ripping, keep the knee pads from ripping out, and did that. Took the karate pant triple gusset for being able to do splits because BJ used to always complain that his pants would get caught when he, you know, like I could do the splits all the way down flat to the mat, but his pants didn't allow it. Got that idea from the karate pants, put those in there, and I just made the gi I wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's crazy, man. That's crazy what you've done for the sport, you know? Like people have no idea.
Funny now because everybody's gi has contrast stitching, comes in a travel bag. You know, everybody has a triple gusseted crotch. So many people have foam collars, inside print. Remember back in the day, like you might get one embroidery on your gi, but everything was like sewn on patches.
Yeah.
So, you know,
It's
different
crazy. It's crazy what people have no idea from not just the footage, but then now with the kimonos, making our kimonos that they are today, like showy roll and all the just everybody, right? Everybody that makes kimonos these days, they have all these things because of you going to Pakistan. So going back to Pakistan, you arrived with all the guns.
Yeah. Okay. So I arrived there. It was cool. I was just, so the very first day, arrived there, man, they tried to take me to McDonald's to eat. I'm like, no, dude. Like, I want some local food. And the next day I get up and I go out to the first factory, and I came home back to that night to the hotel room, and my room was ransacked. Like, somebody had gone through everything in my room to see who I was, but didn't steal anything. There was like $900 cash, video camera, MacBook, all these things. They just left it. So they're just, somebody wanted to know who the heck I was, right? And I didn't notice this till days later, but they had removed the safety chain locks off of the door too.
Mm.
And so, that was really weird. And then just fast forward to like I don't remember what day I got in there, but it was a Friday. And I went to another factory, and these factory guys took me out for dinner at this fried chicken pizza place, and called Frangos, of all, chicken and Portuguese.
Chicken, Portuguese.
And we were in there. I made eye contact with this girl that was in there, and the guy that was at the table like just erupted and left. And I had these two factory owners with me, and this dude with a AK. So I was like, all right, we're okay. You know what I mean?
47, yeah.
Yeah. And so then we ate, we finished our fried chicken pizza. We go outside, and there was like kind of a group of guys waiting with a giant Bronco, and they were blasting 50 Cent, just staring at me like the death look, And I was like, I'm like, all right, you love 50 Cent, so do I. You drive a Bronco, that's from America. Like, I don't know what the fuck I did, but whatever. And then so we drove up to my hotel, and it's like probably the nicest hotel in this little factory town, and they were having a giant party, and it was so crowded we couldn't pull in. So I was just gonna get out and go to my room. They're like, no, and they brought me around to the other side, and they had the guard walk me up to my room, and like, I walked into the lobby of this hotel, and it went dead silent. Everybody stopped talking. Everyone was like looking at me. At first, me, I'm dumb. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, where's the chicks? There's a party tonight. I'm finally gonna do something fun here. And then I realized, I'm like, there's not a woman in this whole entire room. Everyone's just staring at me. And I got onto this glass elevator, and as I'm going up the elevator, people are like pointing at me. And we stopped midway, and two dudes got on the elevator with me. We went all the way up. I was on the second to top floor. And then as I was getting out, like these guys, like maybe, hard rubs, you know what I mean? That made me push my way through to get out of the thing. And I started going, the guard guy started going straight to my room. I'm like, no, let's go the long way. You know what I mean? But he wasn't having it. And these guys, like, they basically followed me to my room. I go in the room, the guy's there. I'm like, all right, well, if this is really a bad situation, at least this dude's here with a fucking gun, right? And he leaves. And I'm like, well, I need to use the internet. And back then you didn't have Wi-Fi or internet in your room. You had to go down to the little internet room, right? And he's like, no, very dangerous. And I was like, fuck. So, when you're alone and you can't like check into reality, like it got crazy, man. So like I looked off the balcony that out in my room. There was a huge deck I didn't remember underneath, full of men and stuff. And people saw me and started pointing at me, and I closed the curtains. And then, people started shooting guns, not necessarily at me, but people would shoot guns there, right? You'd hear gunshots a lot, but people were shooting guns at, and I was like laying down on the floor, looking under the curtain, trying to see what was going on. And in the process of all of that, somebody came and started pounding on my door. I was like, and so I pushed my couch against the door, and I didn't want to put my eye in the peephole, so I lay down and put my head on the floor, and I could see people's feet and stuff outside my door, and I could hear a lot of men talking. And then my phone started to ring, and they were like prank calling me on my phone, just breathing into the phone and yelling stuff and hanging up. And, that went on for a minute. I just turned the TV on, I turned it on loud, and just tried to chill and just get ready if I needed to be, ready. And at some point, I was so tired, I passed out. You ever wake up and you don't know where the hell you are? Like, you just
Yeah.
Passed out watching Pakistani rap videos, and the phone rang. I answered the phone, and like they had like timed it all up to like where my phone rang, and I was trying to answer the phone. I was trying to like speak some Arabic or something, you know, and then they started like banging on my door, dude. And I remember they had taken the latch off my door. And I had a panic and a cold sweat, and I ran into the bathroom, and I literally had to like completely relieve myself. And this is so funny now, dude, but I was so scared. And so I'm sweating, dude, and I had a fork. I had like a blowtorch with this facial cleaner and a lighter, and I had my camera flash, and I turned all the lights off, dude. And I was just sitting there waiting for someone to try to come in my room. I was gonna blind them with the light, you know what I mean, and try to blowtorch like some MacGyver stuff, dude, and blowtorch these dudes, and just like I had a fork, you know, like that's all I could do, and you know, they messed with me all night, but no, like, dude, they could have kidnapped me at any time, right? You know,
Yeah.
they just wanted this is fuck with the gringo, right? And I finally like passed out. The next morning, I went downstairs and I got on the internet. I was still scared to death, and I waited on AIM Messenger for one of my friends to come online, and Marco Perazzo came online. You know Perazzo?
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the Miglarices.
Yeah.
Come down to Brazil all the time. I was like, dude, call my mom. Like, I need some help here, like right away. And my parents had a foreign exchange student that was from Pakistan that lived with them. Her brother was a big person in the military, and they got a hold of her. She got a hold of me, and like I didn't even meet the military guys or whatever, but the military came, dude. By noon that day, they moved me to a VIP room. They had a giant cord going across the lobby of the hotel so I could plug my computer in right in my room. They ended up comping the whole 10 days that I was there. And like, I just left the day later. I got out, man. I got all my samples, and I just pieced out of Pakistan right away. But then I got to LAX, dude, and I got detained for 3 hours in LAX because I'd been in Pakistan, man. They like came and got me, went through all my bags. I had been in the airport in Lahore waiting for my plane for like 4 or 5 hours. And I went in this bookstore. They had one book in English. I bought it for my dad. It was called The Heroes of Islam, because we grew up in the Middle East, you know, like I lived in Tehran and around the Middle East. And I just got it for my dad more as a joke, souvenir, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I got to LAX and they found that book, and they just grilled me and grilled me and grilled me. And since that trip, dude, going forward, every time I come back in America, you can ask anyone that travels with me, I get detained 100%. Detained every time and checked out. So
It's on your record. That's crazy. That's crazy.
All that to try to make a gi.
What's that?
All that just to try to make
did you,
yeah.
So we have you to thank for all the IMs of people trying to sell jiu-jitsu gis today.
Dude, I've talked to so many people that got ripped off. It sucks.
Oh my god. So did you ever think about going back to Pakistan after that?
I'm down.
What'd you say? You're down?
Down. I would just do it differently. You know what I mean? Like, think about it like this. It's like I went out to where all the factories were, like way outside of the main cities, right?
Right.
And so I don't know. It'd be like, you know, going like deep into West Virginia or something, maybe, you know, like, or if you went to like the area of Detroit where it was just all factories and nobody ever seen anybody that looks like. I mean, they were telling me like, "Oh, you're the first American to ever come here," you know, like, and so, you know, like I just I stand out a lot of places I go, but I just like really stood out. Wow. And I had like your haircut, shaved, jiu-jitsu head, you know, cauliflower ears, probably a black eye. They probably thought I was some military dude. You know what I mean? I was in shape, you know. So yeah, but I would go back, but I would just stay in the big city and just take the hour-long trip out to the factory.
Man,
yeah,
crazy. Man, you grew up in Iran, in Tehran.
Yep.
How to tell me that story?
That's just my parents. You know, they're a little nomadic. My dad grew up in the Middle East too. His father built refineries in the Middle East, and so my dad grew up out there, and he had a chance to work for a company called GTE, which is now Verizon. And you know, so they installed all the satellite communications all around the Middle East. So I was conceived in Lebanon, in Beirut, and my family came back to America to have me. and eventually went back to the Middle East, and we settled for the longest in Tehran, about 5 years till the Iranian Revolution, and
No
just
way. And yeah, you remember tank? You remember seeing tanks, or you were too young?
oh yeah, they burned down my elementary school that I went to because it was named after the Shah. And my dad was like stuck actually in the country in between the two times that they took over the U.S. embassy. So they took it over once, didn't work out, sent all the Americans into hiding and stuff. My dad had some Persian friends, Iranians, that helped him get out of the country, and they took the embassy again, and then they rounded up the Americans, and that's that whole story of them being hostages there.
That's crazy.
You know,
So Iran out of all the places. Go figure.
I
Scotty,
wish
Scotty,
I
Scotty Nelson.
had
One more adventure figures with you.
Nobody believes half of these stories, anyways. So
What's that?
nobody believes half of these stories, anyway.
I mean, it's from Brazil stories to, go figure. Like it's just
It's for days. Do you remember Dave on the Run?
Dave on the Run.
Dave
No.
Norman? Oh, you weren't there when he was there. Oh, guys, just so many guys that came down, over the years, to train. All the crazy stories of what happened to them and stuff. So.
What happened with Dave on the Run?
Oh, he was just always like, broke and trying to like scam places to stay. And he would rent a place and then sell the furniture that was in it to pay the rent and then ditch it out. And he went to Shoot Box and was training there. He got his skull cap popped off and beat up down there. And he's crazy. One time we were in Copacabana and we had about like 8 street kids try to rob us. And this dude was just blasting these little kids, like grabbing them, picking them up, bam, and kicking them, and like getting them all off of him. We're trying to like be back to back to each other I'm just pushing kids away, kicking them, and he's just literally like rack, just smashing them and stuff. I'm like, we gotta get out of here, dude. Those kind of crazy Brazil stories, where you just try to go to, out to some crazy party in Lapa, and on the way, who knows what neighborhood you got to go through, right? So.
He did jiu-jitsu?
Yeah,
MMA,
yeah.
That's crazy.
He did too. I have no idea what happened to him. But
who else?
Oh man, Pete the Greek and I have a ton of stories from Brazil. We used to ride our skateboards and our buses from Baja to Copacabana to train with Oswaldo and Fredson and Bibiano and Jacare and Galvão. Like think about all the people that were in that one little academy down there. So. Some adventures.
Pete the Greek.
Yeah.
Man. And so you went from you had the on the mat the fight shops. You started producing the gis, right? And how did you get into the CHIPSA Hospital? How did that whole story happen?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a crazy story. So, I was doing this like emotional intelligence leadership course in Vegas, and Ed came out to do it with me. And they do this thing called 100 Days of Leadership, and you create a personal strategic plan, and you get coaches to help you kind of time collapse and make a bunch of goals happen really fast. 100 days, and Ed, he had already owned a holistic drug rehab business in Mexico, and he had saw how much good was being done with natural roots in addiction. And his mom was dying from rheumatoid arthritis, but not from the actual disease, but from the side effects of medications. She had done what they call now is a failed standard of care. And he had read about this medication that was banned in the US basically because it was like unpatentable, and it was working, but they couldn't figure out what the mechanism of action was to make it work. And so he was looking to open another drug rehab in Tijuana and a clinic there. And in the middle of buying that one, he found out that the medical paperwork was fake. And as fate would have it, he got in an Uber with Dedrick, our other business partner, and drove by this hospital that was closed down, sent that picture to a realtor and found out who the owner was. And then it turned out it was the original Gerson hospital and had been using this Coley's fluid or Coley's toxin, which is like the first immunotherapy. at this hospital since 1996 or something like that, 94. So really, man, he asked me to go down there and check it out, and had gotten confused and thought I spoke Spanish, but I'm like, I speak Portuguese, homie. And I went and we met with the doctor, and ended up working out a deal on this hospital. His mom was the second patient to come in a wheelchair. She left walking. I saw some other patients have a very similar experience, and it didn't take too much of seeing people who are told to go home and die in America get their life back to be like, I'm in. So I financed my house and pulled some funds together, and got involved with the project.
So I had the pleasure of I've known that you guys have been involved the last, I don't know, is it 5 years, for about 5 years or so. So I've been meaning to go down, and then after talking to I just thought it was like much harder to get there. I just didn't know how easy it was to go over across the border. I mean, it's pretty much like driving to San Diego. I mean, yeah, you have to go to the border and all that, but it's really, really easy. You just gotta time the, not rush hour times and those kinds of things.
The traffic is not as bad as LA traffic.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then just, I mean, I had ocean views from the room I was at, and it was super safe to walk around. I totally felt safe. And one of the things that I really just made me feel good was like, all the doctors and all the staff, like they really cared about like how I was. It wasn't like, usually in the US, like, not that they're back doctors, but they have quota, they have people to go through, but the fact that the fact that they took the time to check up on me, but also like they're there because they believe in these ways, right, in some alternative ways. They want to do the best for the
it's only alternative in America, right? So that's like,
right.
I try to correct people when they say, oh, you're an alternative hospital. Yeah, I'm an alternative to what the American system offers. But the treatments, a lot of treatments that we have, they're legal and everything in the US, but no one could afford them. You know what I mean? The other treatments that we have, they're used in other places. It's just America's behind the times. So like, I really prefer people understand that we're an integrative hospital, and our hospital is built off of old school Jiu-Jitsu, Vale Tudo, MMA, theology of, if it works, keep it. If it doesn't, throw it away. Right.
Right.
And we're only interested in results, measurable results.
Right.
And you're right. Like our staff, we have, it's been heart wrenching that we had to let go 154 people from my staff down there because of the pandemic. I never would have thought that having a health hospital would be shut down in a health crisis, but we live in strange times. And they really are, man. We spend a lot of time with that staff. We do emotional intelligence training with the staff, and I really felt like we did have, we do have, the best of the best down there. And I think that you can tell, like, when somebody who has the knowledge to help you really care, look you in the eye and really care, and not leave your side till every question is answered. That's how healthcare should be.
Yeah, that's it. That's where that's how I felt when I left, and just even now, hey, just message me, let me know how you're doing, check out, I'm gonna take notes, and just everything that you want a doctor to tell you, they did. And even as you see in the hospital, like just all of the things that are written on the walls, it's like a powerful place. Like people going through through their cancer treatments or whatever they're going through, like I mean, I walked around, I even took some pictures, just it's like, it's super deep, and
feel it in there.
You feel it. Yeah, you feel it. And then when you do the research too on that building, like how it's like the original Gerson, how do you say Gerson or Gerson? Gerson, right?
Tomato, Gerson,
Yeah.
Gerson.
Gerson, yeah. So hospital with the dad, the Mr. Gerson and the daughter, right? We're there for a lot of years,
Daughter, yeah.
Daughter. So it's like, man. Then I was like, of course you're in the mix, Scotty on the mat.
One for us to find accidentally, it was going to be that one. Fortune favors the bold over here. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy if you know how many people told us we'd never do it. I'm not a doctor. I never graduated from college. You know, I don't even really consider myself like that intelligent compared to the people that I get to spend time with. But you know, we know how to like make friends, build bridges, and you know, compromise and communicate with people. So because of that, like we've really been able to hear what big pharma is looking for. We listen a lot to our patients, and I just feel like really lucky, blessed, whatever you want to say, that you know, we have doctors coming to work with us. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, like I said, it's insane. You know what I mean? It's like if the top MMA coaches all decided to get behind you, and that's really the level that we're at. You know, this new stem cell stuff. I'm really excited to be able to treat as many as my friends, and you know, fighting has torn us all up. Snowboarding, skateboarding, you know, all this things, and you know, by owning our own stem cell lab, having our own patents, and you know, teaming up really with the best of the best, and we're 20 minutes over the border. Like we're going to be able to change some people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I was lucky enough for you guys to put me through that new MS, the fibroblast stem cells. You know,
Yeah,
I got
your
what's
face
that?
a little like, I don't know. Your skin and your face looks different.
Man, I feel like $1 million. You know, I was telling people.
Maybe you got a filter on. I don't know, but maybe that's just the sleep.
Man, I feel great. You know, and I mean, like even I'm happy I went there. I want to bring my family down there. You know, I want to bring just to get, you know, so I have like I like a place I trust right now. So it's amazing, you know, and it's so easy to come across. You know, I think just people don't realize that. You know, you think Mexico, it's dangerous, but yeah, it's really, really amazing and really grateful that, you know, I had the opportunity to go over there and you guys took care of me too. But just to kind of spread the word.
Yeah, I can't wait for this to finish for you, so you come down and do like all the other stuff, because like the hyperbaric, the NAD, IV ozone, high dose vitamin C, Myers. There's so much of that stuff.
What's Myers?
Myers cocktail. It's just like you know. So what we'll do is we test your blood, see what you're deficient in, whether it's vitamins, minerals, and then they mix up this cocktail to replenish that.
Oh, amazing! Wow, that's
And
amazing.
NAD is very cool.
You guys are doing big work, you know, big work, you know. So yeah, I'm just really grateful, man, that you guys gave me that opportunity, and thank you, man. Thank you for everything you've done, man, over the years. I mean, for jiu-jitsu, for all of us.
If it wasn't for guys like you in a mall, you know, like I might have died in Brazil. One of those motherfuckers might have just misunderstood me enough to take me out of the game or something. You never know. So I always appreciated you guys translating for me, showing me the ropes, you know, stuff like that. So it's it comes around, goes around. Yeah.
Steve, I spoke to Jeff Glover last week, you know. So we're just talking about, he's like, we saw the stuff you've done for Americans, especially in jiu-jitsu, you know, especially Americans, you know, it's like, you were like, yeah, such a big deal. And then now, of course, the kimonos and everything, just people having no idea, you know, all these, the short roll and all these, but how this happened.
And I try to get you one.
And yeah, your kimono came, you got the UFC kimono.
See this thing here.
Does it have Horace Gracie on the inside of it?
Yes.
One the beginning.
Poster.
Oh my God. I gotta, you know, I have to, so can you buy them online?
Well, you can buy them at the UFC store.
Oh my God. I have to get one. I want to frame that thing.
The original cotton, like unbleached. You know? So,
oh my God. I mean, no matter what, like you kind of made it, you know, with that gi.
Full circle for me, you know, this is what got me into jiu-jitsu, and this was what, you know, first made me want to put on a gi. So for them to, out of all the gi companies that are out there now, you know, there's like a bazillion gi companies. It was awesome. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, to get picked like that was, you know, really cool.
And you, before we were talking that you're like, yeah, Horace Gracie even wanted one, right? Horace Gracie called you up.
I was a surprise. So yeah, really cool. I mean, I'm honored to be able to give him one, you know, for sure.
Oh my God.
I know me and him are butt heads, but I still respect. I mean, I see him on your wall right there.
Yeah, there we go.
Hell out of him, and he he changed my life as you know, all of the Gracies too, but you know, still is what it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you all the work you've done in the past for jiu-jitsu and always taking care of us. Like when I talked to Jeff Glover, he gave you a big shout out, and I know Lovato, all the guys, you've always taken care of us, you know, like family, no matter what, you know. So I appreciate everything you've done for me personally and for the community, right, overall. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And thank you for the work that you're doing now. Really, really saving lives and helping people, you know.
Yeah. Well, I feel honored to get to do it. You know what I mean? So it's been good.
How can people find out about the CHIPS Hospital and just the work that you guys do?
Yeah, sure. It's CHIPSA, CHIPSA, hospital.org. And you can hit me up on the old IG. It's at Scotty OTM. And yeah, if there's some people out there that need some support with going through anything crazy like that, you know, whether it's cancer or injuries and autoimmune, maybe we can help.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Sure. Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.